Hi scholars, my name is Mrs. Phillips and I'm going to be your virtual Texas history teacher this year. I think it's a great idea if we get started out by knowing each other well. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of information about me. I've got some information on the screen here and I'm just going to go through it and let you know where I'm from and what are some expectations for this year even, okay? My name is Michelle Phillips. You can call me Mrs. Phillips or Coach Phillips. I am a golf coach here at Wellborn Middle School, which is my home campus. That may not be yours, but I'm still teaching you virtually through the district. I was born and raised in Pampa, Texas. Pampa is in the panhandle of Texas, nowhere close to here. You could take a flight and it would take you several hours to I moved to Tyler, Texas, which is East Texas, after I graduated high school to attend college. The rest of my family actually moved there also, which is kind of cool, kind of maybe not cool if you don't want your family to follow you to college. But they did. I actually followed them to college, we'll say that. My dad worked for the oil field. He got transferred to East Texas, and I found a great university there, so I decided to move down there with them and attend that university. I first went to TJC, Tyler Junior College. I attended Tyler Junior College, finished up my 2 years there, and transferred over to the University of Texas at Tyler. That's where I received my Bachelor in Applied Arts and Sciences. I know I'm not supposed to say UT around here, not in the maroon part of town, but I did not graduate from A&M. I know that disappoints many of you. I'm very sorry, but my husband works there now. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. My husband Jay and I met while I was in college, and we got married on March 16th of 2007. I'll give you a little bit of time to figure out that math. And our twins, Haley and Hampton, were born on June 6th of 2011, okay? I'll give you just a second to think about that. We'll go to the next slide as you're thinking. All right, have you thought about those numbers for a second? Okay, here's the answers. My husband Jay and I have been married 12 years, actually closer to 13, and he works for Texas A&M as a lead business analyst. He does lots of computer stuff. He builds programs for the admissions department, and he enhances their systems that are already there. He has a pretty cool job, and it's very technical and probably more technical than I can even wrap my brain around. We have 9-year-old twins, Haley and Hampton, girl-boy twins. They are going to be big 4th graders at Creekview Elementary this year. And as a family, we really love golfing, every single one of us. My husband is a big golfer, and our kids are really getting into that. We love to kayak, we fish a lot, we visit museums. Maybe I just like drag them to museums. They don't always love going to museums. Actually, my daughter loves it. She loves Texas history, and she loves any kind of history. My son and my husband just tag along just to make us happy. We love to travel, absolutely love traveling. We take every chance we get to travel anywhere and everywhere. And by the picture, we love to obviously relax on the beach. Family is definitely everything to me, and they always come first, as should yours. And we will get to know each other in just a little bit. I'll get to know you a little bit more through a Flipgrid activity later on. You can tell me about your family and where you came from. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to learn this year and why it might be so important to learn Texas history. Texas is pretty fantastic. I get really excited when we talk about Texas because I kind of love it. Not only was I born and raised here, like I just told you, I've never actually lived outside of Texas, and I really appreciate the history that is here. We have such rich history and rich culture everywhere still. Okay. In addition to that, we were our own country for about 10 years. We'll learn about that. That's a huge bragging right of our state. Um, and there's a huge list right in front of you. So let's talk about that. Texas today is where we're going to start. We're going to always start with the end in mind, and I want you to explore Texas and what it means to you and what it looks like today. This is just your environment. Okay. The geography of Texas, that's huge, right? Texas is the second biggest state in the entire United States. If you don't know what the first one is, I'll let you do a little bit of research and tell me about that in just a later, maybe through a Flipgrid. But Texas has the most vast landscape out of all the states in the United States. Okay, we have mountainous regions, we have grassy plains, we have swampy area in East Texas, and we have a coastal line. Okay. You guys probably know how big Texas is. If you've ever taken a drive across Texas, you can drive for hours and never get out of our state. So we've got to understand the geography before we start learning about the actual history of Texas. We're going to go into early Texans after we learn about the geography, talk about the Spanish explorers and the rule, the empresarios, that's a big word, but we'll learn about that later. The road to the revolution, one of my favorite parts of Texas history. It's so interesting, and this is kind of the meat and potatoes of Texas history. The Texas Revolution, the actual revolution that led us to our republic years right after that. Our own country is what that means. We stood on our own 2 feet. We were our own country for just about a decade. Early statehood, we annexed into the United States and became a state of the United States. So early statehood, immigration and migration into Texas. Who came here? Where did they come from? Civil War and Reconstruction, gosh, that's also another very favorite unit of mine. Continuing on into Texas government and why it was formed, how it was formed, and what it was formed after. Closing the frontier, those are the cowboy days, and we're going to talk about cowboys and cattle drives. Economics of the 1800s, the things that built Texas financially. We're going to talk about all of those industries, and then modern Texas emerges. Texas added all of these components to become a modern Texas, and we're going to talk about all of those components. The Great Depression and war, we're going to go into that, and that will support your growth into 8th grade. That will give you some great information to build on. And then the growth and change of Texas, all of the big, huge changes in the oil industry and the fun, great things that happened right after modern Texas emerged. And we're going to talk about why they happened and how they happened and exactly what happened. Okay, you guys, I'm really excited to be your Texas history teacher this year. If there's any questions that you have before we really get started, you just send me a message in Schoology and let me know. I'm really looking forward to a great year.